Hello, hello, and welcome to the Alliance of Women Directors. I'm Melanie Mack, the Executive Director overseeing Los Angeles and Atlanta. Today, I am in conversation with the phenomenal multi-hyphenate writer, executive producer, director, Crystle Roberson. Welcome, Crystle.
Hey, Melanie, so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
So happy to have you. Thank you for joining us today. So I want to get into I want to talk about your background and this incredible Emmy award-winning anthology series that that we're going to focus on today with your episodes of Genius. And but before we get into that, tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into filmmaking.
Yes, of course. So I actually started off as a photographer. I worked at this mom and pop camera shop when I was in high school, and that was back before the digital revolution. So we would develop film and we would, and I had to sell cameras and I had to learn all about cameras and how they work. And there was a moment when I was in the attic of this camera shop. We used to convert people's home movies into VHS. I know it sounds ancient, but that's what we used to do. They used to bring in their little film reels and we would project them onto the wall and record them onto VHS tape. And it was then that I was like in high school, and I was like, wait a minute, this is the only thing that we have as people to preserve our memories, to preserve our loves, and to really record what is happening in life. And it really hit me really deeply. And I was like, wow, this is really powerful. And ever since then, I was like passionate about photography, filmmaking, just anything that could capture life and preserve it and tell a story about life. So that's how I got started. And nobody I knew was a filmmaker. I was raised in Macon, Georgia. A lot of great musicians are from there, James Brown and Otis Redding, but nobody in filmmaking. So I kind of just felt my way through. I just had
Yeah.
to, yeah, just kind of find it. Yeah.
Well, you are also, I know that you attended the Savannah College of Art and Design as well for filmmaking, right?
Yes, and that was amazing because I mean we were in Savannah because I know they have an Atlanta campus now, but Savannah is just the most picturesque, beautiful place. It's mysterious. It's got all these really beautiful vibes and textures to it. It's a very old town. So imagine being a filmmaking student like in Savannah, able to shoot whatever you want.
Yes.
It was great. It was great.
Wow. Well, I am. We are all such a fan of your work. My sons introduced me to All American, which I watched that series. Greenleaf, one of my favorites right now. BMF. I know you're directing. Incredible series, and I have to say, what up, though? So, what drew you to this anthology series? It is incredible. I mean, just the beauty of it, the power of it. Your episodes in particular are just such standouts. What drew you to this?
So I've loved the Genius series since Einstein. I have loved it from the beginning. I've always thought it was a great concept. I watched the Einstein season. I watched the Picasso season. I watched the Aretha season. I have always been a fan. And
Yeah.
so when I got the call as like a possibility to be producing director of this show, first of all, I just would have been happy directing an episode of the show. But to be able to really be there for the long haul and bring the whole season of MLK together was like I was like completely just in a dream. So I was drawn to it from the very beginning. I had always wanted to be a part of the show in some way. And it came about in a really amazing way for me. And when I got that chance, I, of course, just had to give it my every single last drop of myself because it had been something that I had been wanting to do for years.
Mm. Yeah, well, you did an incredible job. I would say, how did you approach I mean, with these are two figures that the world knows, Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, that they know so well. How did you approach the challenge of bringing the intimate and complex lives of Dr. King and Malcolm X to the screen, that showcases their humanity?
Yeah, so I wanted people to put themselves in the shoes of these men and these women. That was a point of view that I came from, and it really greatly impacted where I chose to put the camera. Because we've always seen these men as these iconic, iconic men, and MLK has his own holiday, and he's
Yes.
all, I grew up in Georgia, so like I grew up like MLK was like it was God, Jesus, and Martin Luther King. So
Yeah.
so it was like he's always been like this huge figure. And what I really loved about this series, and the reason why I wanted to help tell this story, is because I feel like we need heroes every single day. We need people who see that person in themselves, who can stand up and make a difference. And if these heroes are always iconic and untouchable, who's going to see themselves to be that person? So I knew it was important to ground these men, to put us in the shoes of these men, to see them in their undershirts and their underwear, to see them eating and doing things that humans do. I knew it was really important to do that. So I chose specific moments where I wanted to be in their shoes and see their POV and sit in it with them, rather than be an observer or an onlooker, because I think we've been observing these men long enough. So my DP and I, Trevor Forrest, who's amazing, we both sat down and just kind of chose those moments where we wanted to be objective versus subjective, and where we wanted to make sure we were in the shoes of Martin and Malcolm versus when we were on the outside looking in, to tell the story. So that was overall like a major sort of POV like approach that I took to the material. And I also think that when you differentiate those two things, you allow the more you allow those POV moments to be more impactful.
Yes.
Because every moment isn't the same. So you get a chance to kind of like suddenly you're in Martin's shoes when he's stabbed, and you see
Yes.
it from his angle, from his POV, and it's like, whoa, versus always doing everything the same, and then everything kind of starts to feel the same, and then nothing kind of stands out and grabs you. So we were really particular in choosing those moments.
That's wonderful. Even as someone who is, I pride myself on being studied in history, in our history, in particular, American history. I found myself discovering new things, which I really appreciated about your work. Just new things about heroes of mine.
Same here. Same here.
Can you discuss the significance of highlighting the roles of the wives, Coretta Scott King and Betty Shabazz, as formidable equals of the movement?
Yes, I would love to discuss that. So, I love Coretta and Betty. I actually was listening to their autobiographies, like audiobook, on the way into work in the mornings. They gave me so much strength. They gave me so much, like, just, going in and day out gets tough over the course of months and months that you're doing production. And
Yes.
to understand what these women went through and what they were able to withstand and how they were able to remain graceful in the public eye, was just so inspirational to me. And so I really grasped onto their energy while I was working on this series. And it's super important because, like I said, the world needs heroes every day. But heroes aren't made by themselves, like, there are very few people who can just do it alone, if anyone. And so people who are going to go out and dare and risk their lives to change the world need support systems. They need friends. They need someone who loves them, who can stand with them and say, you can do this. I'm here. I'll be here when you get back, whatever it is.
Yes.
Um, and first of all, like the many things that Coretta and Betty did, one of the things was that they were there to support these men and say, I'm here for you. I love you. Go out and do it. The world needs you. I know if you watch the series, you saw Martin many times say, this wouldn't be possible without
Yes,
you, that you're one of the best decisions I've ever made,
it was.
and was. And so, it really sort of puts it in perspective when you have friends and you have family members, or you have a spouse who has a really big purpose on their life, and it's also a big purpose to support and to encourage and to inspire and to show love and encouragement. That's a big part of being a hero as well. And so um I think that, like, these, they're all heroes in their way, right? Because they all had to make those risky choices of allowing, like, something so precious to them, like their own, sanctity of marriage and all that stuff, be at risk and put out there for the world,
Yes.
for the sake of changing things. So I just love them for so many reasons. I could talk about Coretta and Betty forever.
I have to say, Matriarchs is hands down my favorite episode, and
Oh, thank you.
just yeah, the way you balance and talk to me about that. How did you balance their public personas, uh, and their private lives? Because as a woman, I'm watching it and I'm thinking, I don't know that I could do it. I don't know that I could do it with so many, um, with everyone pulling focus from the family unit, and that you're in this partnership, as you said, with someone who is called to, um, a very high purpose that extends beyond, um, the covenant of marriage and, children and those things. And just what were some of the elements or things that you, intentionally, uh, included for the audience, and what were you hoping that we would take away?
Yes, yes. So, with these two women being in two different religions, married to two men who seem to be opposites of each other, I just really wanted to show them side by side, and show what each of them were going through and how similar it actually was. And we really wanted, as a whole, as filmmakers, as actors, we just all love the idea of showing how these really different people from different lives were
Yes,
really so much alike. And so the story really lent itself, like, to be that, because there were so many striking similarities between Martin and Malcolm, and Coretta and Betty, and when and kind of what they were going through at certain times in life. The story really lent itself to that. And so all I had to do as a director was visually do that, was just visually put them together. So I just wanted to make sure, me and my DP, again, me and Trevor, made sure that, like, subtle things like lenses that we used and colors that we used. Yellow was a really important color to us in matriarchs. And it was very subtle, but we used it for Betty and Coretta. And yellow, the color yellow just has an array of different meanings, and it brings about, subconsciously brings about the different feelings. Young Betty with the yellow ribbons in her hair, who felt abandoned by her mother. Coretta in the yellow dress, who's now pregnant and going through all these new beginnings, but is also under immense amounts of stress from Martin being locked,
Right?
arrested, and so, we subtly put those things in there to bring these two women together, to bring their paths together. So we did as many like subtle things we could to tell that story, and it feels like the audience really grabbed onto it, because I've heard so many people have a really big reaction to that episode in particular, which I'm really excited about.
Yes, I watched that, and I had to watch it again because there were so many moments. I mean, just with Betty, just encouraging Malcolm to eat. She takes the time to make a shake, and just the things that everyone does. And I love just like the day-to-day, like the monotony of life. But she takes the time to make this shake, and he pushes it aside, and I was ready for her to pick up the glass and just
Just
toss
throw
it.
it.
She said, "Eat. You need to eat." It was so
Yeah,
loving. It was tender, and yet at the same time, like, okay, like, this enough of this. And yeah, I had no idea that she ever left. That she left and that he never called. And I said, Malcolm, what are you
right. You better call this woman. Yeah.
doing?
Uh, and imagine like him as such a powerful man with all of these things on his shoulders and all this stuff going through his mind, and then you're trying to get him to eat breakfast in the morning. I love that toward the end of that episode when they make up, and he's in such a vulnerable, quiet place where he admits that he just doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to be married,
Yes.
and they need each other. And I just always melt at that vulnerability from him. But I think that's it was just such another brilliant way to like from the writers to show their vulnerabilities and their humanity as men. Because they're not always out in the community, fighting for rights. They're making up with their wives, and they're being fathers, and they're having to work through things just like everyone else is having to do. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. The music and the visual imagery. In what ways did you incorporate music, visual imagery, or other creative elements to enhance your storytelling and evoke a sense of the time period?
Well, that has to come a big thanks to Gina and Reggie, Gina Prince Bythewood and
Yes,
Reggie. They really wanted this series to be fresh. And again, they wanted to speak to the heroes out there of today. They wanted to make sure that it didn't feel like a history book lesson, and
yes,
that it felt like something fresh and new that people of today could really sink their teeth into. So they made a lot of those choices for that more like contemporary music.
yeah,
And I thought that it really sat well with a lot of viewers, because it just felt a lot more relatable, and it helped Malcolm and Martin and Coretta and Betty just feel even more like next door neighbor, like someone who you would know today.
yes.
So I really, really love that choice as well.
Beautiful. What were some of the standout moments for you, and scenes from your episodes that were particularly challenging?
You know, a lot of them were challenging. Thankfully, we had, and you know how usually on set they have an intimacy coordinator for
Yes.
sex scenes or love scenes. We had a sensitivity coordinator as well, which I really appreciated because there's a scene that I shot of the sit-in at Rich's Mall where, we were going to be exposing these actors to other actors behind them shouting expletives,
Yes.
calling them names, and putting food on them. And it was one of those things where it's like, hey, if you are triggered or if you feel away or if you need a minute, we made sure that everybody knew that they could take their time and just let me know if you need a minute or if it's like, hey, this is too much for me. Um, because triggering, that psychology is really very real, and and sometimes when you're triggered, it lasts much longer and lingers much longer in your mind and in your heart and in your emotions than you think it will. So we made sure we spoke to everybody about what was going on both sides. The people who were calling names and the people who were getting name called.
Yes.
Because it's triggering on both sides. It's really hurtful. So that was one of the toughest scenes for me to do and to sit through and to have actors go through it take after take. Um, it was also really challenging when Martin was stabbed. Um, we didn't have a lot of time to shoot that scene, and it was very important for me to make sure, like I said before, that I was in the right point of view, um from for Martin, so we could really feel what he was feeling when that happened. But Kelvin Harrison Jr., who plays Martin, was just so phenomenal. I really didn't have to, thankfully, do a lot of take. I was able to just get it, and we were able to really boogie and go. But that scene was just challenging in particular because it was so like it felt like such a fragile scene that we just had to kind of get so quickly, and it was like, oh man, you know,
Yeah.
are we getting what we need to get? Is this coming out like it's supposed to? Because we were just having to trust our gut and say we got it. We didn't have time to ruminate or noodle on it and see like what we have. So until I was kind of nervous up until I saw that scene cut together.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I was like, okay, we got it. We really did get it.
Yes.
So, but yeah, there were scenes like that, the sensitivity scenes and the TV schedule of having to shoot these really important moments in a nick of time.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
Kelvin, I mean, the cast in general, I mean, they were so just it was so thoughtful with their portrayal of our heroes. It just there was so much care, so much
Yes.
love and care that you put into this. I mean, you can see it, it just bleeds through the screen. And yeah, I could feel it, and I know that audiences that it's resonating with audiences. Uh,
Yes.
discuss the struggle for Martin to uh, strike a balance between passive and active resistance versus Malcolm's absorption with his work and the impact of his relationship with Elijah Muhammad.
Mm, that's a great question. It's interesting. We can look at Martin and the quote unquote army he was surrounded by, and we can look at Malcolm and his army, right? Which
Right.
which were their congregations. They were both um reverends, right? Who
Yes.
who got up and spoke words and had a certain following. So Martin's army or congregation was made up of church-going people who believed in Jesus Christ, who believed that, you know, violence was not supposed to be the first response, or if any, for the most part. So I felt like, and Malcolm, on the other hand, had a congregation of people who, were they practiced nonviolence up until the point where, violence was done to them, and then they
Right.
believed that they had the right to retaliate. So I really feel like I think about these men in their environments and who they were preaching this word to, and how they also had to live by an example of what they were preaching. And so I think that Martin really battled with that because he's a Christian preacher who can't go out and tell people to be violent and fight and do and retaliate with a certain level of violence. Like, he can't do that. He's Pastor Reverend Martin Luther King Junior. So I'm glad that the series was able to sort of highlight that struggle, for that internal struggle for Martin, in that non-violent, violent way. Because I think a lot of people just saw Martin as being someone who was always non-violent, never a
Right.
question about it, never a feeling or a doubt about it. But he was a man who battled with that, because he did see, like, this is tough, being at this sit-in and continuing to get arrested, and just having to turn the other cheek. Um, so I really kind of saw it differently as I was directing the series, because I was like, yeah, these are not only just men out in their own single lives. These are men who have whole congregations following them and following their words. And they have to stand for something specific, by example, you know. And that's what Malcolm's church believed, and that's what Martin's church believed.
Yes.
Hmm.
The impact of I really appreciated the way you touched on the let's say extra relationships with Elijah Muhammad and
Hmm.
uh, and Malcolm coming to learn of this, and even just the conversation that takes place between Malcolm and Betty when she asks the question about, why are you going to see this woman? Just, forget anything else. But why are you going to see this woman without my knowledge? We are a team. I just the way some of those things are depicted. And other projects over the years, it's been, it's just like, yes, do the good work, fight the good fight kind of thing. But it was you were grounding so many scenes where she was just, she said, wait a minute, you went to see another woman
Yeah.
without talking to me. But that I really appreciated how that came to light for him, and how he really struggled, and just his hurt, almost like a childlike hurt with a father figure, uh,
Right.
with that kind of disappointment, and learning that his hero, someone who uh, pulled him up,
Right.
that he saw that he was flawed, that he too was a flawed human being.
Yes, yes. And Aaron Pierre, who plays Malcolm, did such a phenomenal job at making sure that those moments were those moments alone. He preserved certain performances and certain vulnerabilities for the Elijah Muhammad moments. And that's one thing that I loved about his approach to that role. He preserved his smiles, his laughter, he preserved his explosive anger. He
Yes.
It all had a moment to be what it was, and he didn't do it all the time. And so when we felt that pain from him, when he found out about Elijah and it broke his heart, it was the only moment in the series that we felt that type of heartbreak from him. And I really love Aaron for that. And so, because it's very important to know, just how much it affected him.
Yeah.
And I mean, Ron Cephas Jones, oh my goodness, who we
Oh
lost
my
last year.
goodness. I know. He
Yes,
the late Ron Cephas Jones.
yes, the late Ron Cephas Jones. Oh my goodness, all honor goes to him. He he was more prepared than any other actor I've ever worked with in my life. Seeing his side, seeing his script and the way that he breaks down every single moment, every single beat was like a masterclass for me and for everybody who worked with him. He had Elijah Muhammad down to he had Elijah Muhammad down to a science of every breath in between every line. It was all by design with Ron Cephas Jones. He is one of the most incredible actors I've ever worked with before. And so when he and Aaron got together, they really fed off of each other, and I thought that Ron was really able to play that role in a way that not only offered humanity, but also kept a lot behind the surface of like, kept a lot of it mysterious and, didn't put it all out there as Elijah Muhammad, but kept a lot of it still behind closed doors as it
Yes.
was. So there was a lot under the surface that he played, and and the business came out, and the when he talked with his talks with Malcolm were very like, hey, this is business, this is our religion, this is what we do. um but I'm also disappointed in you, or I'm proud of you. So he did have that fatherly um sort of reign over Malcolm. And I just loved it every time I had a scene with them, because like I said, there was just so much bubbling under the surface for each of them that they were able to play really well.
Yes, and what a privilege to just have the opportunity to direct Ron Cephas Jones.
Such a privilege, such an honor. And even then he was, he was going through, I knew he was going through some health things even then, that he just pushed away when he came on set. He was just so happy to be there. He was so happy to be there and loved what he did up until the very end. So I'm so privileged to have had a chance to work with him and learn from him.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, with your background, Crystal, I mean, highly accomplished filmmaker, you have a diverse portfolio of projects. Um, how did you bring your past experiences on other projects that you've been involved in how did it inform this work?
The first thing that just jumps out at me is the fact that like I was raised in Macon, Georgia, as I said before, which is the middle of Georgia in the South. And so I grew up with I grew up as no stranger to racism and segregation, even though I grew up in the 80s and 90s. It was, still so prevalent in the South. And I grew up with Confederate flags on bumpers of cars and t-shirts and hats, and even the flags themselves just waving out of the window of trucks and things that would speed by us to try to scare us, on the way to school, and stuff like that. So I grew up in that South. And so particularly when Martin was arrested in court in the Matriarchs episode, I wanted to make sure that that Georgia flag from that time period was was
Oh, it was,
big and bold.
it was right there, yes.
I wanted it to be as big and bold as possible, because that's how big and heavy it felt to me as a little girl, and as a woman now. Even it, whenever I see it, it takes up everything. It's hard to see anything but that, because it's a reminder of so much hate. And
Yes.
and it's just like, yeah, like, of course Martin was arrested in this court, of course he was. He never stood a chance
Right.
in this
Zero.
court. You get me? This is the flag that we wave here
Yes.
in year and time. Um, so I definitely, that flag in that scene was chosen and the size and everything and the placement and everything I chose specifically because I said, this is how it feels. And this is how it had always felt to me from a little girl to now. And I wanted the audience to feel that. And I wanted Martin to feel that. I wanted Kelvin to feel that. I wanted, where Ruche, who plays Coretta, I wanted everyone to sit in there and be like, yeah, this is what it was. This is what it was like. So that's just one instance where I brought myself and my childhood to the set. And, I wanted to make sure that people felt that and understood how that felt.
Yes, it was felt. It was felt. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, and I mean, South Bay, they were burning crosses when I grew up in Torrance. So,
Mm.
yeah, and people think that it's much more progressive here. It's changed over time, but it's unfortunate that that racism is still something that plagues our world.
Mhm. It is so
Unfortunately.
unfortunate.
Yes, and that's putting it diplomatically.
Right.
Uh, as a director, uh, how do you see the series contributing to the broader conversation of civil rights and social justice in today's world?
Yeah, I mean, I really, I don't want to be redundant, but I feel like it's harder for heroes today. I feel like it's harder for people who really want to step out and lead a charge and make a change. They're just under so much more scrutiny. Social media gives everyone this voice, but it also sort of puts everyone in this bandwagon to go against you if you step out and try to make a change. And so I hope that it's my greatest hope that people will watch Genius MLKX and see that hero inside themselves and dare to do it anyway. Um, because they saw like, yeah, the FBI might bug your house, and yeah, you may come up against so much opposition and people calling you names and people telling lies about you and your personal life put out, on to be just crucified, right? But do it anyway. Um and those are the people that I really want to bring out of hiding, to come into the world and say, hey, a change has got to be made one way or the other, and I don't care what it takes. I'm going to get out here and make a change for the positive. And so that's what I'm hoping that this series does for our society today. I really just wanted to awaken people who, even the smallest changes that could be made, just to take that stand and not be afraid of what all would come with it. Because like I said, I mean, I think it's just harder now for everyone because of social media and how easy it is to just tear people down and cancel people and
I agree.
find every little thing out about you that you ever did or did wrong and bring it out to use against you. So that's my hope. I really hope that we can find some heroes out there.
Yes, and we know that there are here. I mean, all of us, each of us, has a hero inside of us, and I agree with you wholeheartedly that I too hope that this gives people the courage to not only see themselves, but to take a stand in whatever their platform is. To use their voices, to use their platforms, whether it's in their home, business, just the community,
Right.
take a stand on the things that they believe in. And it's very difficult because I had a friend that said they posted something saying good morning, and someone said, what's good about it? Just
Oh my God.
there's just so much negativity, and that also shuts people down, and it makes them afraid to share anything, to be a thought leader and move in today's world.
Absolutely, 100%.
So just in closing, this is just some fun things I'm going to ask. One of these questions, I'm just going to be transparent. My mother threw in here, but I'm going to ask Biggie or Tupac?
Tupac.
Okay, my girl. This one comes from my mother. Cardi B or Nicki Minaj?
Oh, Nicki Minaj.
Okay.
Okay, Mama. I
I
see.
said, Mom, I said, what do you know about Cardi B and Nicki Minaj?
I was not expecting that.
That's from my mom. Okay. I already know the answer to this one, but I'm going to ask Beyonce or Taylor Swift?
Beyonce all day, all year. Come on.
Yes. Well, it has been such a pleasure and privilege to speak with you. We thank you on behalf of the Alliance of Women Directors and AWD South. Thank you for spending time with us. We are just know that we are celebrating you, championing you, honoring you and your work, and we'll continue to watch. I have to ask, what's next? What's next on the horizon for you?
To be perfectly honest, it's a personal thing. I am 9 months pregnant right now, and so that's next.
Congratulations.
So yeah, and it's my first. So motherhood is next. And I am so excited about it, nervous about it in all the best ways, and looking forward to it. In
Yes.
to be as an understatement. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh,
So,
that is beautiful. Congratulations. I too, I'm a mom. I'm an empty nester. I have two sons, and what I will say is just buckle up. It is such it's a wonderful thing, and I love it's almost getting to experience life again through the eyes of your children and seeing them discover the world. It's amazing. It's an amazing.
oh, I'm so excited. Thank you so much. And thank you to the Alliance of Women Directors for all that you do. I've been following you for years, and just for all that you do for directors and aspiring directors and filmmakers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day today.
You too. Thanks,
All right.
Melanie.
Take care.